Obviously, a huge Lakers fan personally. I was born and raised in Orange County, California. Lived a lot of my life in Orange County, LA, San Diego, the whole area, really Inland Empire, San Bernardino, everywhere over there. I've been all over the place, whether it's for work or for whatever the case may be. But one common thread is the Lakers. This blood is purple and gold. I'll be honest with you. Outside of my Angels red, right? The Lakers are definitely the next one there. And They've been kind of off and on. Obviously, we know a lot about last year and how they kind of made some deals. I love D'Lo. Obviously, we drafted D'Lo. He made some immature decisions when he was younger regarding Nick Young and some stupid stuff, and then we were able to see him go elsewhere, kind of mature, and then come back. And he's really been exactly what the Lakers have needed as far as a playmaker, a guy that can shoot. A guy that's really fearless and cold-blooded in so many ways, and that's exactly what we need is somebody who can forget what just happened and just keep going and use your talent and your skill. And he's got plenty of that. And especially being a lefty, it's so dynamic, right? And Austin Reeves has been a beautiful story, a lot like Caruso was for us. We should never let Caruso go, but maybe that was the opportunity that Austin needed to shine. That extra playing time and ability to be on the perimeter more and to be a ball handler. And obviously, he's really come just completely around on being able to be a playmaker and being able to do the things that he needs to do to shine. And those are beautiful things, right? Because the Lakers really ultimately, they are in the 9 seed, which is playing territory. If you're not familiar with the NBA's newest format that started last year, the 7 through 10s are in playing games. So 7 and 8 are going to play each other to determine who gets in. And then that ultimately ends up being the 7 seed. And then the 8 seed that plays the 1 seed, which right now would be Denver. Although Minnesota's right there, Oklahoma City's right there, they're all still vying for position with around 10, 11 games left in the season right now in the NBA. Ultimately, those teams are going to hash that out through records. The Clippers got a gift last night from the referees, a game that they did not deserve to win and shouldn't have won, literally should not have won. There was a horrible foul called it or not called at the end of the game that should have been. Even the refs afterwards go, "Oh yeah, we should have called that." It's like, well, it doesn't matter now. They're not going to overturn the outcome of the game. So what difference does it make if you call it now and admit it now? It doesn't matter, right? Because the NBA, even if you do appeal, which you can appeal and protest a game, but they're not going to overturn it because it sets a precedent of, oh, okay, well, you can just get any game overturned that you don't like the calls, right? And there's already enough complaining in the NBA where they don't want that. They've already kind of gotten out of calling stuff. They've obviously told the referees over the last month or so, hey, let's prep these guys for the playoffs and stop calling ticky-tack fouls and let guys play. You know that because every time AD and LeBron go to the basket, they get hacked and nothing gets called, like literally ever. And it's so funny because people say the Lakers, oh, well, they have such a discrepancy with the fouls that they get called in the free throws. Well, that's because they drive to the basket because they're not a good shooting team. They have to drive to the basket. They've been shooting better lately, but that's only lately. That's only over the last, couple weeks. That's not a long span of shooting well, right? Because ultimately these guys can make some shots, but they're not ultimately great shooters. Torian Prince, Cam Reddish, these guys are not typically going to be great shooters. AD's even been hitting some threes lately, and we all know that wasn't the case, but that's great to see because when the Lakers won in 2020, AD was making some of those, and it forces the defense to go out. It opens up the lane for other guys like LeBron. The Lakers are flowing right now because when they don't have LeBron or AD, then instead of having two guys that are paint dominant players, now they have space, and that's what's been helping them, right? As you see D'Lo and Austin, what they can do with space, because then they can be one-on-one, the other defender's a little bit further away, and they create the space, right? So the Lakers, a great win in Milwaukee, but they were down 19 twice, right? Because they opened that game with this, like, I don't know if I want to be here. Oh, LeBron's not playing mentality. At the beginning of the game, you could just see it in their body language. It was there. And then they woke up about halfway through the game and said, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to try to do this. And AD just would not let them go. And that's the AD we've all been looking for. The guy we want to take the baton from LeBron, who's 38, 39 years old now. AD needs to take the baton, and this needs to become his team for the next 5 years or so until he starts to kind of go on his natural decline, and it's time for whoever the next guy is going to be. Right, whether that guy's there now or not, probably not. So we'll see, but even if LeBron retired at the end of this year, he's a free agent, or if he decided to go somewhere else to play with his son, having D'Lo is not the worst thing in the world, right? He's going to be a free agent. Will the Lakers resign him or not? Probably not after all the trade talk and all that. I mean, why would he want to? And if he can get more money somewhere else, why would he want to do that? Especially if it's in a non-tax state, in Texas or Florida or somewhere like that. If Miami wanted him or if Dallas decided to make a play to get him as a guy or something, you never know. I'd love to see him stay because I think that he gets a bad rap. He's not the greatest defender in the world because he's not the most athletic guy in the world, but he is highly, highly skilled. I played basketball my whole life, leagues constantly. I've been watching Lakers forever. I've been doing sports stuff forever, as far as the broadcasting side of things. And I'll tell you, like I love D'Lo. He gets a bum rap, and people talk about trading him. And when he has a bad game, it looks bad, because he's getting blown by dudes and stuff because he's just not able to keep up with De'Aaron Fox. But nobody can. It just looks worse because D'Lo's kind of stumbling out there because he's not the most athletic guy in the world when he's on defense. So he gets a lot of bump. Plus, when you don't win and you're a Laker, you're going to hear about it. I mean, even AD hears about it constantly. Even when they do win and he doesn't look good in the win, he still hears about it, because that's the standard that's been set by the Lakers. Whether you like it or not or agree with it or not, that's just what it is, right? So what do the Lakers need to do? The Lakers need to continue winning. They have a lot of winnable games on this road trip, and then they go back home. And I think Cleveland is the game next week where they go back home again, and then they have a couple games at home and then a couple more on the road to close out the season. Could they still catch the 7-8, seed from the 9? They can. They don't have the tiebreaker because of the two games they just dumped to Sacramento, which were very hard to watch because you saw Sabonis just basically dominating AD inside, and then you see AD dominate Giannis, and you're like, well, what? How does that work? Like Giannis is, and what's the difference? Well, Sabonis knows how to use his body better than Giannis. He can shoot better than Giannis. So there's all kinds of threats that are existential there to AD that he has to respect about Sabonis that he doesn't have to respect with Giannis. If Giannis hits a three, you're like, hey, congratulations, you hit a three. You know what I mean? Like, if you can do that the whole game, yeah, you're probably going to win. But seeing AD, guarding Giannis and then switching out on the Dame, and when he would switch on the Dame, you could see Dame was like, oh, I'm not shooting this. Because he knew the extension of AD and how long that guy's arms are. He has an amazing wingspan, and he can get to that shot quick. And Dame had already experienced it at the end of regulation where he got that shot block that could have won the game. The truth is the Bucks did a lot wrong in that game, and that's what allowed the Lakers back in. But the Lakers did take advantage and did make the plays. Now, they're not going to be able to do that every game. So they got to stop falling into these holes early in games. That's their biggest thing. If the Lakers hadn't fallen in all these first quarter holes, they probably would be at least the 4th or 5th seed right now all season because they play great in the second half most of the time. And it's the big holes they have to dig out of that keeps them from winning a lot of these games. Or LeBron, decides to do these heat check threes when they're down by 7. And you're like, what are you doing? Stop it. Lately, you can tell his ankle's bothering him. Because he keeps making horrible passes, which is usually not the case, and that's because when you have an injury, you're just trying to function, right? You're just trying to function, and your mind is no longer leading you to the physical capabilities that you normally can do, and that's what's happening when he's making these passes that get intercepted. There's a game, I think it was a game against Indiana, where he threw like 3 or I think maybe even like 7 or 8 passes that got intercepted that were like, wow, really? Why did you throw that? And that's because he's not feeling right? And his body is not allowing him to do the things he needs to do, right? So the Lakers do have an opportunity. If they can move up, that would be great because right now they would have to host either Golden State or Houston, who just won another game and over OKC. So you can't say, oh, well, this winning streak's been over nobody's. No, they've actually beaten good teams. Houston's a good team, and I'll be honest with you, I would rather see Golden State. I've heard a lot of people going, oh, yeah, it'd be great if they could get Houston. If you look at the games they played against Houston this season, the Lakers don't fare well against Houston. They play a style of basketball that doesn't suit the Lakers well, right? And granted, the Lakers will tighten up on defense a little bit more, especially when they know it's a must-win game and all of that. So they will defend better in those games. But their perimeter defense is not good enough. If you have guys like Van Fleet and all these guys that are being able to really Van Fleet being able to shoot, and guys like Dylan Brooks, he's not a great shooter, but he can hit an open one once in a while, right? We all know the history there with Dylan Brooks and the Grizzlies, who the Lakers also beat last night which was really nice to see them come off of a really tough, gritty win and then go without AD and then have LeBron step up. And I think what the Lakers are finding right now is that as much as you want LeBron and AD to play together, it might be best for them to play them offset a little bit more, throughout the whole game. Have them play, a little bit together as well, of course, in the clutch moments that you need them to be able to score and to offset the defense where they can't, double other guys and they have to stick to those guys or double them even and free up your game as far as being able to run the pick and roll, the pick and pop, all these little bubble screens, all these little hitches and moves and all these different things. I love LeBron's podcast he did with JJ, the Mind the Game. I love talking X and O's of basketball because most people that watch it don't understand it or care. And I always love people that say things like, "Hey, basketball's not that physical anyway." That's just not true. I played it my whole life. I got tons of injuries that can speak to how physical it is, right? And I don't just mean twisted ankles. I mean there is physicality, in the lane, and there's a lot of stuff you don't see that sets up the stuff that you do see because the camera doesn't zoom in. It's not entertaining. They're looking at the guy dribbling the ball. They're not looking down low where some guy's getting shoved in the back, to get out of a position by another guy, right? And that's ultimately what Sabonis is great at, is all those little subtleties, and that's why he can push AD around because he's a thick dude who can, manipulate, and he knows how to time it and all that. And when you get really good at all that stuff, it makes you such a better player. That's what Embiid does that really well as well. And that's something that Giannis is still kind of learning, right? Is he's still kind of learning how to be a big guy and how to be on the perimeter. Like, because most of the time when Giannis gets something good, it's because he just runs somebody over and it's called a block, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Or he's just wide open, or he gets an alley oop. But Giannis is a rim player, right? He's not really. He's gotten better at his mid range jump shot. He can step out and hit an occasional three, but it's very occasional with him. And so I think that there's a lot of things that go into that. Um, I Hey Madison, thank you very much. Um, so the Lakers have a lot of stuff that they can do better. Um, but they need to continue to rely on Austin and D'Lo as far as letting them play their game. Right? Don't defer to LeBron every time he's on the court. LeBron's a good enough player where he will figure out how to impact the game, whether it's to rebounding or defense or whatever. And at this point, with his ankle injury, that's probably best anyway. And then that way, when they are struggling, you can then give him the ball, and it changes it up for the defense to have to then go, "Uh-oh, we were now focused on D'Lo and the pick and roll with AD and Austin Reeves and what he was doing behind us, and Rui over there hitting a wide open shot, and now we have to deal with LeBron." And that's what makes you unpredictable. And unpredictability is what's going to help them as they move into the playoffs, and they're going to have to get out of the play-in either with their record now and get really lucky in the next 10 or 11 games and what's left in this season to be able to move up, which means they would have to continue. They would have to almost win all the rest of their games for that to really be a logistic possibility. Um, and if they don't, then they're going to have to play in this play-in. And I honestly think Golden State, we've got their number. If Steph has a big night, anybody can lose in the NBA because Steph is just that great of a shooter. If he's on and you're not guarding him close enough, then you're in trouble. And the Lakers in the last game with Golden State didn't do that and found out the hard way, which they found out many times. And LeBron and his crews found that out many, many times in the finals, many of those times. But if you look at like the series that they played last year when they eliminated Golden State, the Lakers know how to do it. But in a series, it's a little bit different than playing one game. In a one game, a lot of different things can happen. In a series, it's different because you can't just in a series. It becomes execution. It becomes we know what you're going to do. You know what we're going to do. How are we going to adjust to what you're doing? How are you going to adjust to what we're doing? And then how are we all going to execute? Who executes better? And that's where the Warriors get a lot of teams is that they just out execute them. Right? When they beat a team like Sacramento, they out execute them. Right? Because when you're a younger team, you go, oh, well, that little thing over there probably doesn't matter. Well, it does matter because if you don't follow correctly on a slip screen, then Draymond gets a wide open layup, right? If you don't follow correctly on a pop out, then Steph or Clay gets a wide open three, right? And all those things that you don't think really matter then become that one possession that loses you the game in the postseason or in a play-in scenario, right? And if you look what the Lakers did even in the in-season tournament, they locked in, and expect to see that here. The Lakers are starting to do that now. They're getting really, really close. They're not quite all the way back yet, but they're getting to the point where they're locking in. Their shooters are really starting to take that extra second to make sure that that ball is not hitting off the front of the rim. Rui's heating up. Torian's been really hitting some good shots. They've really been doing things well as far as the dynamic of the game and how they're really focusing in on what they want to do to defenses and what the defenses are doing to them. And they've had a whole season of seeing all these different things. The great thing about adversity is it builds character, right? The Lakers have had a lot of adversity last year, this year, and now they can use all that adversity to their advantage to help grow and maintain the continuity of what they need to do on offense and defense. They have got to play better perimeter defense. That is point blank, period. But anytime the Lakers are losing in a game, It's very simple what is going on. They are not getting out on shooters. That is really the only time that they really are having problems. And when they lose by a lot, it's because they're not getting out on shooters consistently. And it's so frustrating because you watch them in post and they go, oh, well, they're going to get a couple of those shots. And you're like, yeah, but you at least have to close out a run at them, right? It doesn't mean you're going to block the shot, and it does, and you don't want to get too close because you don't want to foul a 3-point shooter. But at the same time, like you have got to at least try to run out on a shooter because it'll make them think about it for just half a second, and then that may be what it takes for them to short arm that shot off the front of the rim, or for it to go a little bit further over and bounce off the back of the rim and come out on the other side, and that gives you that extra possession. The other thing they need to do is team rebound. They've got Rui, they've got LeBron, so don't tell me they don't have big bodies. They've got Rui, LeBron, AD. What's going on is that Rui and LeBron, a lot of times, as soon as the ball goes up and it hits the rim, they're booking it back down to the other side of the floor, right? You can't do that. You have to get back down the other side of the floor. There's no doubt about that. But what you have to do is you have to first box out and go after rebounds before you do that. AD can't be the only guy trying to get a rebound against 4 other guys. That's not going to work. So when you don't have the extra size of a guy like Dwight or a guy like JaVale like they had in 2020 or DeMarcus Cousins or some of these other guys that they've had in the past, then you're going to have to team rebound. So everybody's got to grab a body just like they teach you in NJB, just like they teach you in high school when you're coming up, just the first fundamentals of basketball. You have to grab a body when the ball goes in the air. It doesn't matter if it's your guy, you grab the guy next to you, whoever the closest guy to you is, right? And you have to box them out and get position or fight them to get that position, which means you have to, you can go over their arm and push them back. You can go under, you can go around. There's a lot of different ways you can do it based on the time and scenario and where in the court you are positionally. There are tons of ways to do this, right? And the Lakers need to figure that out. The Lakers are a really good team, and they could go on a run. And they're starting to kind of put those ingredients together, but they need too much luck right now to win, right? And the way that you eliminate luck is by using your effort and your skill to overcome what the other team is doing. So even if the other team has better players, which isn't necessarily true because LeBron and AD are pretty good, even at this stage in LeBron's career, he's still pretty good. Even a little gimpy, he's still as good as most guys, right? And I like the fact that he's shooting better from outside, but he needs to not take as many shots from outside. It's one of the problems that he's having right now, right? And so they need to get all of that kind of honed in and understand what it's going to take, which team and which matchup they need to do. Sacramento and Denver kills the Lakers. Why? Second chance opportunities. The reason they lose to Denver is because Denver will get 4 offensive rebounds and then they will continue on and continue on and continue on and continue on. You can't give a team with skilled players like how many pick and rolls from Murray and Jokic can you guard? And I'll be honest with you, you can't guard it at all because if they run it a certain way, you can't guard it no matter what you do. It's just impossible. Offense will beat defense in the NBA. It's just the truth. That's how basketball works. If you execute perfectly on offense and the timing is perfect, there's nothing anybody can do about it. There's nothing they can do about it. Now, there's things you can do like bring an extra guy over, but then it opens up the guy on the other side, right? Which is why they always stick that guy in the corner over there, and there's so many corner threes now because that's how it works, right? You can't beat perfect offense. And when you have guys like Jokic who can do everything from mid-range to outside to diving to driving to posting to everything, and then you combine him with a guy like Murray who's very fast, very quick, understands the game, understands how to do a pick screen, a rub screen, and he can pop out and shoot from pretty much any range, that is unstoppable, no matter who you are, even a guy like AD. And the problem that the Lakers are going to have, if they don't get another big guy, I know Castleton just came back from injury, but he's very inexperienced. A guy like Jokic would deny him. So the problem is AD is going to get in foul trouble because in the playoffs, in the first half, what the Denver Nuggets or the Sacramento Kings are going to do is they're going to take Sabonis and they're going to take Jokic and they're going to put him on AD and get him in foul trouble early in the game so that he's not in the game anymore. Then what do? Right? You can't put LeBron on Jokic. He's too tall. It's not going to happen. Like as good as LeBron is, it's just not. That's not going to work. He'll hold his own, but he's going to get dominated. There's nothing he can do about it. So if they're not going to go sign somebody like DeMarcus Cousins or Dwight right now, which Dwight's in some legal trouble, I don't even know if that's possible, right? Plus, they'd have to release a guy, and then potentially that guy would also get paid next year if he's a 2-year contract, because some of these guys they signed are. So to get a guy on a good deal like they did with Prince and D'Lo, they had to give them options, player options, so that they knew they had the choice of a contract the following year, and that's why they took less to come to Lakers instead of going to another team where they had a better financial opportunity, right? So they had to give them multiple years in order for that to happen, right? Except for Schroeder, who ended up going to Toronto because he wanted to play with his boy, Anunoby. His boy got traded, and then Schroeder got traded also. So was that a great trade? And then it didn't work out for us either because then we took and signed Gabe Vincent with that money, and Gabe Vincent's been on the shelf the entire year. They said he's about to come back, but will he even be 100%? He's going to have to play his way into shape. Who knows, right? Vando would be another guy that they could get back, but without another big body, AD's got to stay out of foul trouble. He's got to stay on the court and not get injured and play through it like a warrior, like he's been doing this year. And if they can do all those things, they can make a significant run. But they've got to continue to play the good offense. They got to continue to keep hitting the shots that usually aren't going in from guys like Torian Prince, Rui. So these guys' confidence has to continue to build, and they've got to get all these different factors contributing at the same time for them to make a run. And we'll see if it happens, because these next like 5 games is going to show that, because they've got a bunch of teams that they should beat. And if they want to go on a run, they've got the perfect opportunity right now to go, you know what, we're going to do this. We're going to go through these teams. We're going to find a way to get up to 7 or 8. 6 is probably too far, but if they can at least get up to 8, that would put them in a situation where they have multiple opportunities through the plan to get into the postseason. And you want to avoid Denver. So if Denver is going to be the 1 seed, you don't want to be in the 9-10, because if you end up being the 8 seed, it's going to be really, really bad. So we're going to see what happens for the Lakers, and stay tuned.